Okay, so when you hear the word space race, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, right, it's the USA versus the Soviet Union, this epic, high-stakes battle for the heavens. But, today, the conversation has kind of shifted. Now it's often framed as ISRO versus NASA. But here's the thing, is it really a race anymore, or has it become something way more interesting? Let's dive in and find out.
Right, so to really get a grip on where we are now, we have to rewind the clock. We have to go back to the very beginning. See, the first space race, it wasn't really about pure science or some noble quest for exploration. Nope, it was born out of the Cold War, this super intense period of political and ideological rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union. And what's so crucial to understand is that the initial push wasn't to reach the stars. It was to reach the other side of the planet. Both superpowers were developing nuclear weapons, and they desperately needed a way to deliver them. The answer? Intercontinental ballistic missiles, or ICBMs. And the only way to make those work was to master rocket technology powerful enough to get to outer space.
And wow, did things move fast. In October of '57, the whole world was just stunned when the Soviets launched Sputnik. A month later, they sent a dog, Laika, into orbit. The US was scrambling to catch up, launching Explorer 1 in early '58 and then founding NASA just a few months after that. And of course, the whole race came to this incredible climax in 1969 when the US and its Apollo 11 mission landed the first humans on the moon. But here's the thing. While this superpower rivalry was grabbing all the headlines, a totally new player was quietly entering the scene. And they were driven by a completely different philosophy. This was India, and their motivation wasn't about beating anyone. It was about building a nation. The visionary behind it all was Dr. Vikram Sarabhai, who we now know as the father of India's space program. I mean, he was inspired by Sputnik for sure, but he saw a totally different potential. For him, space tech wasn't a weapon or some trophy to put on a shelf. It was a powerful tool for social and economic development for the people of India. And their beginnings were, well, they were incredibly humble. You might look at this picture and think it's just a nice illustration, but it's not an exaggeration at all. With barely any resources, the early Indian space program, known as INCOSPAR back then, literally transported rocket parts on bicycles and bullock carts. And their resourcefulness, it just didn't stop there. They didn't have the proper facilities, so they had to get creative. For one of their very first launches, the entire mission control room was set up in a room they borrowed from a bishop at a local church. Can you imagine? And this one really shows their incredible can-do attitude. In another case, a toilet in Bengaluru was actually repurposed to become a satellite data receiving center. They just used whatever they had to get the job done. It's such an amazing story of what we call frugal innovation. So the program officially kicked off as INSCOPAR in 1962, with Prime Minister Nehru and Dr. Sarabhai leading the charge. By 1969, though, it had grown way beyond just a committee, and it was reorganized into the Indian Space Research Organization, or ISRO, the name we all know today. Okay, so how did these totally different origin stories shape the agencies we see today? Well, they created two fundamentally different organizations. See, comparing NASA and ISRO isn't really a fair fight, because it's like comparing two things that were built for completely different purposes from day one. People ask this question all the time. So which one is better? But as we're starting to see, that's kind of like asking if an apple is a better fruit than an orange. They were just grown for different reasons. The real answer lies in understanding why they even exist in the first place. In this slide, it lays it out perfectly. You've got NASA, born from the heat of Cold War competition, its main goal being exploration and pure scientific research. Then you have ISRO, born from this incredible vision of national development, trying to use space for socio-economic benefits. We're talking television broadcasting, weather forecasting. And then there's the budget. NASA's annual budget is around $24 billion. India's entire Department of Space gets about $1.7 billion, and ISRO only gets a piece of that. It's a whole different ballgame. So to really put ISRO's budget and their insane efficiency into perspective, let's start with a number you might recognize. The Hollywood movie The Martian, a film just about going to Mars, cost $108 million to make. Keep that number in your head. Now look at this. The actual cost for ISRO's Gaganyaan mission, which successfully sent a real orbiter to Mars, was only $74 million. Let that sink in. India went to Mars for less money than it cost Hollywood to pretend to go to Mars. That is just an absolutely staggering achievement. And believe me, this isn't just a one-off. Let's compare two pretty similar missions to the Sun.
NASA's Stereo mission cost $550 million. ISRO's recent Aditya L1 mission, it accomplished its goals for just $55 million. That's right, basically the same science for 1/10 of the cost. Incredible.
So what does this amazing efficiency actually mean for the future? Well, it means ISRO has some seriously ambitious plans on the horizon. They're absolutely aiming for their next giant leap in space exploration.
And the centerpiece of all this is the Gaganyaan mission. After a couple of unmanned test flights to make sure everything's safe, the final mission is going to send a 3-person Indian crew into Earth's orbit for up to a week. If they pull this off, India will become only the 4th country in the entire world to achieve human spaceflight all on its own.
And that is not all, not by a long shot. After the huge success of their Aditya L1 solar mission and the historic landing of Chandrayaan-3 on the Moon's south pole, their ambitions are just getting bigger. They're planning an orbiter to Venus called Shukrayaan-1, a joint lunar mission with Japan, and they've even announced plans for their own Indian space station by 2030.
So this brings us to what I think is the most important point of this entire explainer. The era of fierce competition, the one that started the whole space race, it's over. We're moving from a world of versus to a whole new era of plus.
And this really gets right to the heart of it. It's not ISRO versus NASA anymore. It's ISRO plus NASA plus the European Space Agency, JAXA from Japan, you name it. Today, the greatest leaps for humanity are being achieved not through competition, but through collaboration. You know, this isn't even a new idea. This quote comes from the Apollo-Soyuz mission way back in 1975. That's when the two original Cold War rivals, the US and the Soviet Union, docked their spacecraft together in orbit. So many people consider that moment the true end of the first space race. They finally stopped running against each other and started running together.
Which really leaves us with this one final thought. We always talk about space being the final frontier. But maybe, just maybe, after decades of rivalry and racing, we're finally starting to realize that the true final frontier isn't some place we go, but how we get there, together. What do you think?